Anyways, now over to some nutrition topic, and today we are joined by Ifeyinwa Omesiete. She's a nutritionist who's here to talk about food allergens. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Now let's get straight into today's discussion. Food allergies, what are they?
Okay, so food allergies are an immune reaction that the body responds to when being exposed to either an ingredient or a kind of food.
Okay, now let's talk about the causes. We have food that people react to, that or that the immune system reacts to. So can we list out what those foods are?
Okay, so we have the top 8 allergens. There are some others, but there's the top 8.
Yeah.
So you have nuts, you have dairy, you have wheat, you have soy, then you have fish, then there's eggs, and I believe then there's the environmental aspects, so things like pesticides, and then of course dust and mites, things like that.
Okay, now talking about pesticides, we need to break it down so that people can understand what you mean by pesticides, so they're not thinking, do people actually take in pesticides?
Right.
Yeah, so we need to, expatiate on that.
So pesticides basically just mean things that are used to either prevent insects or bugs from attacking our crops during harvest or while they're growing. And then, of course, maybe things that we use in our homes to try and prevent insects and roaches, rodents, rats, and things like that.
All right. So let's start from the early stages, because children are more susceptible to these, allergies. First of all, as a pregnant woman, is there any food that a woman can take to prevent allergies?
There's not a lot of data on that yet.
Okay.
However, pregnant women are advised to avoid certain things while they are pregnant.
Okay.
Not necessarily because of allergies, but what we always recommend is that if there's a history in the family, like for example, if mom, let's say, is allergic to dairy, so that would be milk and milk byproducts. We always recommend that they avoid them while they are pregnant, just so that if the child does come out to have allergies, it's not as severe as that of the mom.
All right. Now, talking about when the child is born, how do we know that this child will react to certain foods growing up, and what can we do to stop it?
Okay, so I think the first one, usually, which is the soonest to find out, would be milk, because that's the first food
that baby takes.
Now, what we always suggest to moms is pay attention to what you eat while you're breastfeeding. Almost about 10% of what we eat gets into your breast milk. So that's why you hear don't do alcohol and things like that.
Yeah.
But if your child is, for example, allergic to nuts, if you eat nuts and breastfeed, they'll get it and they'll have a reaction. Then the other is if the child is being formula fed, then you would also notice that, because most formulas, they have different grades, but most formulas, the basics, are milk-based. So what will happen is the child will obviously react to that. Usually as early as like the first week, you would see a reaction if the child is allergic. And then from there, the doctors and the nutritionists will have to say, okay, we have to move from this to something else, move to maybe, we have different ones. So there's amino-based, there's lactose-free versions of formula, and say, okay, move to that. Because if the child is allergic to your breast milk, or, the milk proteins in your breast milk, then you have to move to formula, because you can't really fix your breast milk in that case.
Oh, right. Still talking about babies, is jaundice a result from a food allergy?
No.
Because there are reports, medical reports, that breast milk could actually be a cause for jaundice in babies. So do you think, is it related in any way?
So no, food allergies and jaundice
separate, okay.
Separate spectrum. Breast milk actually helps babies who have jaundice, because jaundice is essentially something that has to do with excessive production of bile. Yes, so breast milk helps to help the child flush it out.
All right. All right, great.
But they're separate.
Fantastic. Now let's talk about allergies and tolerance, because there's food allergies and then there's food tolerance. There's certain, that's why we have lactose intolerance when we're growing up here. So let's talk more about that. Let's break that down.
So like I mentioned before, allergies are an immune reaction, right? So your immune system is overreacting to either a substance or food, while an intolerance is a digestive reaction. So you would have someone who says, oh, I think I'm allergic to milk. Not really. You probably are intolerant to it.
But that's not a bad thing, right?
No, not a bad thing. But it's important for people to be able to separate the two because allergies actually happen much faster.
All right. All right. Go ahead, please.
No, allergies happen much faster, and then intolerances take a couple of days, sometimes even as far as 72 hours, so about 3 days before you see a reaction.
All right, so quickly before we wrap it off, what's the immediate response to treat an allergy, whether they're home remedies or whether you have to rush them to the hospital? What are the quick response to? What's quick response?
Okay, so
to
there's the most severe one, which is usually called anaphylaxis, and that usually leads to death if something is not done. So in that case, people who have those usually have something called an EpiPen, which is usually injected into the leg. So you'd have that on prescription.
All right.
It helps to open up the airways.
All right.
While for the others...
unfortunately, we'll have to wrap this up. I'm so sorry to cut you off. But if you would like to keep up with this conversation, you can join us on our social media platforms at TVC Connect. Whatever questions that you have, please, you can ask them and tag you at the social media handle. What's the social media handle?
At the Kid Nutritionist.
At the Kid Nutritionist. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ifeyinwa. We have to go now. Stay with us. There's still so much. We have Corey Bello in the building. Be right back.